Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn to Code with Noob. So today we will be covering a lot of interesting topics. So the first topic will be how you can add support of TypeScript to your React Native project. The second topic will be we'll go through the installation of React Native app on iOS. After that we will cover the topic of functional components, and then eventually we will cover the topic of class components and pure functional components in React Native. So it is a very interesting video, very important concepts will be covered in this. So keep watching, keep learning. Alright, so today we will be talking about how we can add TypeScript support to React Native. So if you can see in this, so this was the React Native project which I built um, from scratch. So this is basically a React Native template project, right? And if you can see, like it is all, everything is in JavaScript. So if you can see this app.js file, this is in JavaScript. So what we want to do is we want to add a TypeScript support into React Native. So Facebook has a very good step-by-step tutorial how you can add this thing. I will just going to just do the same thing. So if you can see, like there's a React Native blog, and you can see using TypeScript with React Native. So I will basically copy these commands. So if you can see, like this first command is it will add TypeScript to your project. So I will just do that. I'll just run. Sorry, didn't copied it. Just clear this up and copy this again. Right. So I've ran this first command, and the second command is this. So what this does is it adds a React Native TypeScript transformer to your project. You can see over here, right? Copy and paste the same command, and second command is done. Now the third command is it will initialize an empty TypeScript config file, which we will be configuring in the next step. Do the same, right? So now we'll create an empty transformer file. There you go. And we will also add typings. So this is the other important step which we need to do. So when we will add these typings, so these are basically type declaration files for React and React Native. So if you can see in the command, it says add types React and add types React Native. So for both packages the typings are there now. Alright, so we have added these. So now it basically says in this tsconfig.json file. So we already have this tsconfig.json file right now over here. There you go. So in that tsconfig.json file, what we have to do is we have to uncomment this following line: allow synthetic default imports. We'll just do a find for this. There you go. So we'll just uncomment this line, And the next step is, so remember we created this file, this transformer file, and in this transformer file we have to just copy it and paste this transformer file. All right, and after that we just have to change the JavaScript file to a TypeScript file. So over here we are right now we have app.js, right? So instead of app.js we can rename it to now app.tsx. So now this thing is changed, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So so this is a simple thing which you can do to add the support of TypeScript into your React Native project. All right, so yeah, that's how you do it. Alright, so in my previous video I explained you how you can install and run your React Native app on Android. Now I will do the same thing, but it will be for iOS. So the setup is the same, like there are no changes with the setup, but the only thing which is required to run your React Native app on iOS is the first thing which you need to do is you need to install the Xcode via the Mac App Store, or you can actually install the Xcode directly, like via package. So, so you can go to your Apple developer website, and from there too you can install the package. The other website which you can use is this xcodereleases.com. Let me just show you that website. So this is the website xcodereleases.com, and make sure you install the one which is of like this black color because it is a release build. So you just click on download and it will install the zip file, and you will be able to download the Xcode. So you don't have to be a developer for just doing this trial or sample thing, but eventually when you will publish the app you have to be an Apple developer, like you have to have an Apple developer account. All right, so so after your Xcode is installed, this is how it will look. And so after the Xcode is installed, the things which you need to make sure is um, how you can run or install the command line tools, and also how you can install an iOS simulator. So the way you can do it is, so the first thing you can do is just go to your preferences, sorry, the Xcode preferences, so system preferences, and then you can, sorry, not system preferences, sorry, Xcode preferences, and then the first thing, if your command line tools are not installed, then this will be blank, and you need to install the command line tools. The only way you can install it is like just if it is already installed, there might be a case in which this is not selected. So if it is not selected, then obviously the app will not be able to install on the simulator. So make sure this is selected, and now the way you can install the iOS simulator is just go to the components tab and from here whatever simulator you want to install, you can just check it and then just tap on check and install now. So that's how you can install the simulator. And the other thing which you need to run the app on iOS simulator is you need to install the CocoaPods. So in order to install the CocoaPods, this is the command you can run. So just open your terminal and sudo gem install CocoaPods. Obviously it will ask for your sudo password, and that's how you install the CocoaPods. Alright, so now after installing the CocoaPods, you can just simply run this command npx react native run iOS. So it was run Android for Android, and it is same for iOS. So when you run this, it will actually prepare the build and it will launch the simulator. So this is the simulator which is launched, and after building the app, it will eventually install it on to the simulator. Alright, so we will be right back after the app is installed. Alright, so you can see, like, as soon as I ran that command npx react native run iOS command, the first thing it did was running the Metro bundler. This is the same Metro bundler which was running, not this one, sorry. So this is the same Metro server which was running when I was running the app on Android. So now you can see it is installing the app on iOS. You can see the same thing. The bundler is being pushed to the iOS app, and after the bundler will be pushed, now you can see the same iOS app being installed on the iOS simulator. Alright, so after installing the app, now we will look into our template code base of React. So in the previous section I showed how we can install the app on both Android emulator and iOS simulator. So right now I will be using iOS simulator, but in this section we will just walk through what is actually going on in the React code base. So this is what the template code of a React base project looks like. So a lot of stuff is going on over here. So if we look into our project structure, so we have so whatever the screen which we are showing over here is the app.tsx. It is everything is shown from this app.tsx file. So I am actually looking into this React project from an Android developer background. So I really have very little background of React, JavaScript. I am actually learning with the process. So as what I am learning, I am sharing that stuff with you guys. So it's not like I am very I have a mastery or I am a genius in React Native. I'm just sharing whatever I am learning. So this app.tsx file, if we look into that, so notice this is a tsx file, not JSX. So if you look into like all the React tutorials on the Facebook site, like they are mostly JavaScript based, not TypeScript based. So instead of TSX, they will have JSX. So really not a lot of difference. JSX is a JavaScript thing, TSX is a TypeScript thing. So really not a lot of difference. Okay, so lot of stuff is going on in this. So before actually like diving into this thing, we can actually dial it down to like really the basics of how everything is working. So so what I will do is right now, I will just remove all of the code over here, especially this whole thing. We'll just remove it, and then what I will do is just return the very basic components of React Native. And in this I will just do text, and the text is world. Alright, so let us go line by line and we will see why everything we are doing over here, like why it is complaining, what is this app thing, right? And what are the styles thing. So right now I will just delete like this whole styles thing, right? And I will just focus on this app thing. Alright, so what we are doing in this app, if we can see, like this app is basically a component. So in React there is a concept of components. So components can be functional component and class component. So if you see over here, this is actually a functional component. There is also a thing called class component, which is basically this the same, like there is no difference between functional and class components, a slight difference but not a lot of difference between functional and class component. So a component, if you see in the React world, is it basically lets you split the UI into independent like reusable pieces. So what I mean by split the UI into independent components and reusable pieces. So if you think about this app, so the reason why this is showing us error is because I have this function wrong. So I can just do this and then just do a text and then just do a hello world. So this is a very simple example, and you will see like the hello world is being shown right at the top. We can fix it, but right now this is not the objective of this section of video. The objective of this section of video is to understand what is actually going on in this section of code. So if you see this app is a functional component. Right now we have an app as a functional component. So why we are saying it that this is a functional component is because we are basically assigning a function to this app variable or app constant, right? So now if you see, like the app constant is of type JSX dot element, right? So if we are assigning as a function, so that's why it is a functional component. So and this is what is being laid out on the screen, right? So if you see, like, everything in this functional component is actually it is made up of other functional components or other components, I would say. So if you actually go into this view is also a, a component, you can say. Let's go into this view. So if you see, it is export class view extends view base, right? And if you go into this view base, it is a constructor of a view component. So if you see, like, it is a type of view component which eventually extends react.component, right? So this is also a component. Even this text is also a component. So the best part of the React app is, like, you can build a React app. So it is the same concepts actually are also applied on the web apps too, and the same concepts are now being applied on the mobile apps. So you can design your app into this building blocks of components, right? So this app is a functional component. Now in this functional component, there is a thing which is passed into this component parameter as an input, and what that thing is, this thing is called as props. So this is the props thing which is passed into the parameter of this component. So whenever there is a React functional component, you can actually pass in the components. You can actually pass in the properties into that functional component. So I will also explain more related to the properties, like what does this properties mean. Like, there are, like, literally lot of things which are in this property. So let's just do this. Maybe it will work. I will just try it out. Maybe not. All right. Oh, it's because it is a root tab object. It is a complex object, so that's why I can't really do that. Maybe I can just do this thing, json.stringify, and then just do this. Maybe this will work, maybe this will not. Okay, so there are some things which are printed on top of it. So what I will do is, I will think I have to do this. Just wrap this thing, the parenthesis, and over here just do save area view, and basically paste it over here. All right. So if you can see, like, by default, this is the prop which is actually being passed into this functional component. So there is something in there. So one thing which is, it is a root tag as 291. So by using these properties, like, now you can see, like, by using these properties, you can actually you can make your own custom components, right? and your own custom components. Like if I'll say like this app is actually a custom component, I can say that, and in that I am not like really defining my own properties, but you can actually define your own properties into these custom components, and based on those properties your components can react, right? Okay, so I think uh, this is enough for this section. So in this section we have done the functional components, properties, and what is actually going on in this template. So in the next section I will explain what are class components and what are pure functional components. Alright, so in this section we will talk about the class components. So in the previous section we talked about functional components, so how you can define a class component in a reactive app. This is how we will discuss. So how you can do that is basically over here you can define the class component. Let's say I will just say this class component as app2, and I will extend it as react dot react dot component. So this is how I will be making a class component. So now if you want to define okay how this component should render on the screen, like over here in functional component we defined that how it will render on the screen is basically returning whatever the whole component looks like. So over here, like you can basically do the same thing. You can just define a render function in there, right? And inside the render function I will just return this whole thing. Oops. And instead of props I will just do this dot props. So now you can see, okay, so in order to actually render this class component instead of this, you just have to do app2 export default app2, right? So now you can see this is a app2 class component, so almost the same thing. So in this render, so if you see this render, the return type of that is jsx.element. So these are the components, and they are also called as the elements, right? So now the other thing is inside this render function you can compose the components. So what I mean by composing the components is, so if this render function can include multiple components, like you can actually include this app functional component into this app2 functional component. So how I can do that is basically what I'll do is, instead of doing this return, I will just do app, and that's it. So now you can see it doesn't display anything, any root tag thing like that, because I'm not passing in any props in here. But as soon as if this renders, like if the React renders the app component, it is automatically passing in the props. But over here now the control is on the caller who is actually specifying this functional component. All right, so this is how the class component is done. So if we want to dig a bit deeper into this class component, is there are if you dig deeper into this render function, so there's a render function inside this class component, and I will just go over here. So if you see this render function, return type of this render function is React node, right? And if you see the return type of React node, it can take anything like a string, number, boolean, a React element, right, of any type, a React element again of any type, and it can also take if your function, if you have a functional component, it can also take that too. So a functional component will be component which will return another component, right? So this is that return type. So that is how if you dig deep into this React component, this React class component render function, you can just see it is basically the same thing. So the React node is basically an abstraction of everything. Now moving on to this other thing called as pure functional component. So what are this pure functional component? So first of all, the concept of pure functional component is from the pure function. So for example, if I make a function, I name it as pure function, and I have a parameter called a, which is a number, and a parameter b, which is again a number. Now if I return this function as it is, that a plus b, now this is regarded as a pure function. So why it is a pure function? It is because we, like inside the function, we are actually not changing the value of the parameters. Like we are not updating, and we are not doing any side effects, performing any side effects on the values of a and b. We are basically returning the value of a plus b, right? So now the best part of pure function is the caller can actually call this function and he knows the result right over that time, because for the same input it has the same output, right? So a plus b will be, so if it is 5 plus 7, like it will be 5 plus 7, which is 12, right? But what happens if I do this, like a is equal to a plus 5, right? So right over here I am actually changing the value of a inside the function. So now if you will pass 5 plus 7, it will not be 12. Your return will not be 12, because over here your a value, which was 5, it will be 5 plus 5, which is 10, right? So now your value will be 10 plus 7, which will be 17. So this means it is not a pure function, because you are changing, you are performing a side effect on the parameter values. Now how this functional component can be a pure functional component if I am not changing or performing a side effect on this props, right, or whatever the parameters will be. If I'm not doing that, then that means it is a pure function. I'm just using the value of this props and I'm displaying it. So it is a pure function. We are not performing a side effect. Now there are lot of other differences. There are good amount of differences for like a class component and a functional component, which I will discuss in the other videos. Alright, that's it about class components and pure functional components. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please don't forget to click on the like button. If you don't like this video, please mention why in the comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. Keep learning.